I've been asked to do another commercial update. A lot of people seem to enjoy it last time. I'm not going to do them too often because commercially, things take time to happen. I wanted to get into the new year a bit to see how things were going to transpire. And the reason I say that is because there's always a lot of casualties in January because these shops stay open for Christmas because they, finally have some people turn up to buy stuff off them. Christmas is a great time for retail shopping, of course, but come January, they cash in on December, and then come January, they close. So just to give you an idea, River Island have closed a number of shops. TG Fridays have got into difficulty, and Poundland have closed a number of shops. And there'll be others around. Now, that can distort the market because I'm not finding the retail market too bad. And the reason I say that is I've got some vacant shops in Ipswich. I've managed to let 2 of them since in January. Touch wood, they haven't gone through yet, but they're going through the process. I've got another one in Southwold, which I believe we've got a tenant for as well. So we've got off to a great start with our commercial stock. And that's very interesting. If the rents are sensible, and most of the rents are half what they were a few years ago in these town centres, half. The ones outside the town centres, the market towns, the ones with parking, certainly haven't gone down anything like that. But certainly the town centre ones have gone down. Now the rates, there's big talk about commercial rates, especially for shops. So at the moment, shops pay 75% of the commercial rates in the UK, but they only occupy 25% of the properties, if you like. So that's very distorted. And to be fair to Rachel Reeves, and I haven't got a lot of time for her, but on this one I have, she's saying, rightly so, and the last Conservative government should have sorted it as well, but didn't. That is wrong. That's unfair. You've got warehouses that are paying hardly any rates at all, and all the rest of it, and people delivering in a van from a warehouse and distribution, and you've got shops, especially in town centres, paying far too much rates. So from April, I believe that is changing. The information is a bit vague, to be honest with you, from the government, but in the budget, this is what they said. So we have to try and believe what they say. And that is that the rates are going to be revalued. And normally, whatever your rent is, the rates are 50% of that roughly. That's really, so if the new rents have come down, say you had a shop was let at 50,000, now it's 25,000, that should mean the new rates will be 12.5. So that's really, really important for shops, really important. And I think a lot of tenants will have a go at the lower rents and the lower rates in town centres. Things are picking up in town centres, I believe. It's not as bad as people forecasted, and also there are great opportunities to purchase freehold shops in town centres at a fraction of the price they were 5 years ago. Pubs. Well, pubs I've got all sorts of problems, but remember with pubs that the rates is based on turnover of that pub, and of course in COVID they got a massive rate relief, which is going to be withdrawn. However, there is more support. There's a 300 million package now for pubs. Of course, I believe, and a lot of other people it should be for other hospitality, including hotels, coffee shops and the like. And it's not going to be at the moment. It's only for pubs. But last year, there was 350 pubs closed last year, I should say. This year, they're talking about 500 pubs closing. Now, the reason for that, let's be quite honest, a lot of it is because people are drinking less. Young people are certainly drinking less than all my friends used to drink and still do drink. I don't drink at all, by the way. I'm like Donald Trump, hopefully in some ways, but not always. So, you have to be realistic. It's not just about rates. Less people are drinking, less people are going into pubs. The successful pubs, the ones who have morphed into sort of eating houses and pub restaurants can survive, but it is difficult. And the weak ones, of course, in any transition, it's the weaker pubs, the ones that aren't trading very well, that fall by the wayside. But realistically, they were probably going to fall by the wayside at some point anyway. And of course, that does mean that investors and developers can pick these pubs up and do different things with them. If they're the last pub in the village, you've got a problem converting it to residential. And it could be used as a local asset, which means really that the local community can take it over, and you won't be allowed to get planning permission on it until that has been decided whether it becomes a local asset or not, community asset. And the council and the local people will decide that, not you. So be very careful if it's the last pub in the village. More people are now going back to work. Travelling to, I know that when I go to London on occasions, there's a lot more people on the trains. The car park's fuller than it ever has been for the last 5 years, for sure. And interestingly, they're talking about in central London, there's no, well, they call them A1 officers. These are the very, very top officers. There's no A1 officers coming onto available until 2028. And Canary Wharf, that was on its knees in terms of office space, they just couldn't let it. It was a real problem. They've had a real boost because they've had 2 or 3 very large major banks decide to stay in Canary Wharf. And Canary Wharf has been revitalised as a commercial centre rather than just becoming all residential. So that's really good news. Offices are a decent investment if you can find them on the outskirts of towns with parking. All this commercial stuff, I think, it's about parking. If you've got parking, you can put a lot of different options you've got to a vacant office building. It could stay as office, it could go to residential, of course, but it could be, a vet's practice, it could be a nursery. There's lots of things you can do with an office building if there's car parking. No car parking, that's a problem. It's a problem to convert it to flats because people probably want parking, and it's a big problem if people can't park directly within the curtilage of the building and go in. It really is. So parking is the key to any of these offices. Out of town offices, parking. Alternative uses for large buildings with parking, of course, nurseries. There's a really big push for nurseries, and there's a number of national companies looking to rent this type of space. So look out for the new ideas and the new trends, if you like, when it comes to trying to let buildings. It could be that, doggy care centre and all this sort of thing. There's all sorts of different ideas coming out from entrepreneurs, and that's great. That's what it's about. Permissive development, that's obviously conversion from offices to residential. That's still going. I don't think it's as popular as it was because building costs are more. So you need to make sure they're in good areas if you're going to convert from offices to residential. And the one question I ask myself, do I want my daughters to live in that area when it's been converted into offices, from offices to residential? If it's a really industrial commercial area, then the answer is probably no. And if the answer is no, then our bank's going to refinance it for you. Just because you can get PD, permissive development, doesn't mean you should always do it. So what is the king of investment at the moment? What's the king? It used to be high street shops. They're not now the king, the number one. The number one is still distribution centres, Amazon warehouses, and the like. Unbelievable. These large sheds, as we used to call them, were so unpopular at one point. Now it's the hottest thing around. And I had a chap who I mentor, I'm helping him. He came on one of my masterclasses, and I've got a few this year. I don't do many, as you know, but I've got a few this year. And he said, John, I want to build warehouses and rent them out as distribution centres. I said, you know what? So does everyone else. I said, and unfortunately, there's some big players in that field, and they've been at it a long time, and they're going to be a lot better than we are at it. So you've got to be realistic with what you're trying to do. And my book, hopefully, will help you do that. As will my masterclasses. I cover commercial in my masterclasses along with every other strategy there is possible. So warehouses, if you can find them, self-storage might be more sensible way to go. My brother does a lot of self-storage, very successful at it. So self-storage is still on the up. So alternative uses to perhaps distribution is a good idea, and sometimes you can put in these warehouses, you can put, you know, all sorts of different sporting activities in them. So that's always another angle as well. So in conclusion, what's happening? Where is the value? The value is in shops, the huge value in shops. You can buy them up in high streets for next to nothing. Remember, if it's vacant, you're going to pay the rates. The perfect deal for me, and I'm buying 28 shops in a portfolio at the moment, which is part let, part occupied. So I've got income to cover some of my interest costs, and I've got the vacant stuff that if I can let, I will probably double my money on. So I think that is the perfect combination. High streets, freehold shops in high streets are for nothing. You'll never get a cheaper time to buy high street shops. Get out there and buy some. I'll see you next time.